I'm owner and operator of Ignited Imagery, and I'm here with Diane Jessen, otherwise known as
Nani.
Nani, yes.
And it's Diane Murphy Jessen.
Diane Murphy Jessen. So tell us, when were you born?
I was born at the beginning of World War II, July of 1939, in a small farming community in Pulaski, Iowa. And I was 6 weeks preemie, and in that area there were no medical facilities. I was born in a farmhouse. I didn't like any of the formula the doctor gave Mother. It was canned milk and corn syrup and I think something else, but I wouldn't take it and my health kept diminishing. And my dad said, "Edith, I'm gonna go out there and milk that Holstein." And man, did I love it, and I flourished. I was a chubby chick by the time I was 9 months old.
Perfect.
We would go to town once in a while to buy a 50-pound bag of flour, and it always had pretty print flowers on it, and Mother would use those flowers to make skirts and blouses for us,
Really?
for my sister and I.
How many siblings do you have?
I had a brother and a sister. My sister was born on July 23rd, and the following year I was born on July 24th. We were a year and a day apart, and I loved it when I could tell her she was 2 years older than me.
What was her name?
Darlene.
Darlene. Is she still alive?
No, she had type 1 diabetes and died of kidney failure and other medical problems. My brother was also a diabetic, and he died when he was 31.
And what was his name?
Charles. We called him Charlie. His middle name was William, and his schoolmates called him Chucky Bill. But he had a photographic memory. He could read a book and close it up and quote it to you. And he was just so smart, never took home any homework.
So can you tell me about your children?
Oh, well, I married the love of my life in June of 1971. And in 1974, we had one child. Because a year later, and her name is Kendra, magnificent nurse with a bachelor's degree, and she is here in Bayfield, works in Durango at Mercy Hospital, and a year after she was born, Ron was diagnosed with leukemia, and 2 years later he was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he lived 5 years from the leukemia to after the colon cancer, and I raised her alone.
So tell me about the day that she was born.
I never had a labor pain.
Lucky gal.
Not a labor pain. I just laid there and popped out a baby. She too was 6 weeks early,
Mhm.
and she gave me two of the most beautiful grandchildren. One is Kinsey, who is now 7, Kinsey Diane, by the way, and Caden Ron Vincent. The Ron was after his grandpa and another grandpa. So he's Ron hyphen Vincent. And what a crackerjack. He is so much fun. Both of them are. Very sweet kids. But I'm working on him not to have a potty mouth. Because he called me cat butt. I mean, I could hardly keep from laughing. But he is 5. And who knows where he picks that up at daycare or other kids he plays with. But we're working on him. Such great kids. And then, when Kendra married Kevin, he brought with him 2 older sons. Austin is 21 now. He's in the Navy out in North Carolina, and he will be graduating his last class in the middle of June this year. He will be deployed, put on a submarine, and he is the one that will be responsible for the program that runs, excuse me, the nuclear warheads on top of that sub. Then I have his other wonderful grandson, his younger brother, and Dylan is 19. He came into my life when he was 11 or 10 or 11. And at that time his dad was working in Durango, so he would take him to school at Escalante. And I would go in the afternoons and pick him up. One day I said to Dylan, "Do you remember me doing that?" He says, "Oh yeah, you always had a treat for me in the console and a drink in the cup." And so he and I really got into watching for pretty rocks. And the first time he was in my house, he saw saw that geode up there. Boy, Nani, I wish I could have this. And I didn't want him to think he could just get it because he asked for it. So I said to him, "Well, I'll leave it to you in my will." "Well, what's a will?" And I told him about that, and he continued to fondle it and roll it around in his hands. And then he says, "Well, when do you think you might die?" And I love to tell that story on him, and he gets the cutest smile on his face when he hears me tell that. Because he likes to go to church with me. And I told that story in church. They just howled. They got the biggest kick out of that. But Dylan is really very close to me. He's just such a great kid. And I don't call them step-grandsons. They're my grandsons. No doubt about it. Handsome kids.
Can you tell me about a traumatic incident that occurred in your life?
Yes, I sure can. A month after Ron died in 1980, I was splitting wood with friends, and I had laid a log up on the I-beam, and the next thing I knew, I pulled back a bloody stump. My hand fell to the glove, in my glove, to the ground. And that was when we were living in Green Mountain Falls, Colorado, outside of Colorado Springs. And I said to them, I had Adobe at that time, and Ron had built a doghouse for her, and she was such a sweet dog. And I said, "Leave it there. Don't do anything with it until we call Penrose Hospital and ask them." And they said, "Well, wrap it in plastic and pack it in ice and get down here. And so we did. I was one of the first people to have microsurgery. That was developed during the Vietnam War, and I think it ended in 1978. And 2 years later, they are doing microsurgery on me. I was one of the, and my doctor told me that the sutures are so fine that if he let go of them, they'd float in the air. And I was in the hospital 1 week, that was all. But it was all in intensive care because they didn't have enough floor personnel to take the temperatures of my fingertips. If I went up 1 degree, that meant I needed more blood supply. If I went down 1 degree, that meant I was getting an infection. And I went home, and little Kendra, she was 6 at the time, and Ron had identical twin sisters that came and stayed with Kendra, and I kept her in tune with everything, and I would take her up for my checkups, and one of the twins went along, and she was sitting there, and Dr. Scott was unwrapping it and everything, and I was able to wash my hand, and you ought to have seen the skin that came off my hand. And so I'm holding it up like this, and I said, Kendra, do you have any questions for Dr. Scott? No, I thought when he took off those bandages, your wrist would go bloop. Yeah, but I saw to it she didn't have any psychological harm, and she saw my hand laying on the kitchen table, and she said it was light blue when they wrapped it and put it in ice.
Wow.
I never saw that, but she did.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, to be sure that she didn't have nightmares and stuff, I had her sleep upstairs with me. And we had every Saturday morning that we called cuddle time. And if the phone rang, I wouldn't answer it. We had our cuddle time, and she ate that up.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about rehabbing your hand.
Oh, I had a lot of, what is that called? Neoplastic exercises in which they would put bra hooks on my fingernails, and then I had to work my hand up or down to flex and reflex. And the doctor gave me that 2 times a day, but I promised myself when I went into the operating room I would do twice as much, and that's why I am as good as I am.
Show me what you can do today.
Oh, I can do this. The problem is I can't spread my fingers. I can't play the piano anymore because the intrinsic nerve did not grow fast enough. Scar tissue did. And I had more than one tenolesic release. And I asked the doctor, what is a tenolesic release? And he says, that's where it releases the scar tissue. And it's a release. And I said to him, oh, I haven't had one of those in a long time since my husband died.
That's a great story.
Yeah. And then this fall, my second trauma come along.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming over to shut the fireplace off. And I was turning to sit down in this chair. And I heard the loudest bang, and it sounded like a tree limb broke. Well, I broke my femur in 3 places. And the femur is the largest bone in your body. Kendra saw the x-rays, and she came to me and she says, "Mom, you did a number on yourself." And I went into shock for 3 days. I don't remember much. I just have a few flashbacks. But she said they had not tied me down on the gurney, and they gave me a shot. I think it begins with a C. I don't remember the name of it, in which they give to the military on the battlefield, so they can get them in the helicopter and get out of there, because they're in immense pain. And she said, I came to, sat up and said, "Oh, I feel good now, I can go home." And then she said she had to literally lay on me to keep me from getting up. And she called out to the nurses and said, "Hello, I need help in here." And I don't remember any of that. But I was there 6.5 weeks. And I have this gorgeous German Shepherd, German Shepherd, and her name is Bella. And how I missed her. But the caretaker would bring her to the Four Corners, and she would visit me anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. And when I saw my doctor for the last appointment, she said I could put full weight bearing on my leg as tolerated. So I told the ambulance driver, "When you take me back, you take me to the gym." And when I got to the gym, there was all these people in there that knew me, and I said, "The hills are alive with the sound of..." They busted out laughing, and I said, "I'm going home." And from there, I just wheeled right up to the nurse's station and said, "I'm giving my 3-day notice."
Any advice that you would like to give to Kendra or Kenzie or any of your other grandchildren, what would that be?
Stay positive. Smile a lot.
Anything else you want to tell Kendra?
She's the most wonderful child in the world. And she gave me 4 of the most wonderful grandkids in the world.